Hello everybody, Lawrence Fleming here again. The little bit of storm that we had a few days ago is pretty well cleared out. Still a bit cool for April in Georgia. You guys say, well, it got down to 14 degrees and we got 30 feet of snow yesterday. Well, now you know why I don't live next to you. Okay, but we should be in the 60s at night and 80s during the daytime, and we're just having a hard time getting to that down here. I guess Satan's too busy to bring us the temperature of hell, huh? All right, I want to talk about people who respond to your Jesus talking and can't understand why you're so excited for now because we're in a rapture watch. Now, they're either going to tell you it doesn't exist in the Bible, and that tells me that they've never studied the Bible because it does exist in the Latin Bible. But what they tend to use more often than not, and they've got this down pat, they've got it memorized, and they'll throw it out to you one line and they think they're done. No one knows the day or the hour. Well, first off, that's talking about the second coming, not the rapture. No one knows that time either, but not knowing the day or the hour has to do with the second coming. But what you've got to do, and you can do this with a lot of these one-verse responses that are designed to shut you down, say, well, what's the next verse? Well, we've got two good examples of not knowing the day or the hour, and that's in Mark and in Matthew. I'm going to go with Mark first because it has a quick, simple response. Matthew, you have to read a little bit further, but both of them tell you the exact same thing. So I'm going to start off with Mark 13:32. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. That is such a Galilean wedding reference. Now, I know that there's those out there that aren't completely bought into this because they think we're going to immediately be raptured and go into a wedding. I don't follow that part of it. Yes, we have a wedding. We know we are. We know we're the bride of Christ, so we can't push it all aside, but we can't guarantee that we're going to go right to heaven and have a wedding feast because all the bride isn't there yet. We're not one person. We're made up of all of us, including those that are going to go through the tribulation. So the wedding feast will be at the end sometime. It might even be after the millennium. But to God, a day is as 1,000 years. It's no big deal to him. He's going to have the wedding feast soon, and we'll go with that. But anyhow, let's continue on. Nor the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch and pray. For you do not know when the time is. It is like a man going to a far country, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming. In the evening, at midnight, at the crowing of the rooster, in the morning. You notice those times are all evening to morning. That's not morning to evening. That might be a hint. Or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say to you all, watch. If we're watching, we can say it could be today, because that's why we're watching. So first off, the verse doesn't apply to the rapture, it applies to the second coming. And two, even if they want to apply it to the rapture and don't believe anything else you have to say, get them to read the second verse after these few verses. So I ended up 1332 is where we talk about it, and we end up in 1337. Watch. Now, Matthew does the same thing, but in a little bit different wording. If they did exactly and said exactly the same thing, there's no sense in having both books, is there? Okay, so we're going to go to Matthew 24:36. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Now, this is Jesus speaking, and many people think that at that moment in time, as the human Messiah, he might not have known until he ascended to heaven. So, I don't know. It doesn't matter. He knows now, and he's going to come back for us. Okay. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark. It's a little late at that point. And did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Then 2 men will be in a field, and one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, and one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. Okay, but know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming in an hour you do not expect. Is that the end of it? I think that is. So anyhow, again, it tells you to watch. So that's what we're doing. We're watchers. Now, while we're sitting around watchers, as watchers, we're not just twiddling our thumbs. We're talking to you, encouraging you, praying for you. And again, I want to reiterate that every time you see a prayer in my status or anybody else's, agree to pray for them. Add them to your list. You can't be so socially media overwhelmed that you can't write down and pray for those that are on your list. You don't have to get on the ground and cover yourself in ashes and sackcloth. We're not that way with God anymore. They had to entice God, beg God to come to him and listen to him. But Jesus is there all the time because we have the Spirit in us. We don't have to do that. Just say, hey God, look, here's somebody in need. Would you please do what you can to help them? I don't know what they need. I don't know what to ask for. But please help them. And then go down your list and read all the names. Okay, so that's all you have to do. You don't have to spend 20 minutes on each name. We're simply agreeing with our fellow social mediaites that we want to pray for these people. And God will hear it. And we don't have to be sitting right next to each other. If 2 or more agree, Jesus is in the midst. Okay? So help these people. In this time and age, Christians should be basically doing everything they're supposed to be doing and not being in pain, not suffering. There's no reason for it. We've got access to the greatest healer in the world, or in the universe, so we need to take advantage of it. So that's our caretaker riding by in the back. You can see him just entering the screen in my lower left. Well, I don't know where he's going. He drives around that little cart, making sure that everything's okay here. Not that there's a whole lot to take care of, but we do have people camping here, and sometimes they litter and don't do what they're supposed to do. Okay. Our current watch, high watch, is the middle of May. That's coming up. There's so many things that are coincidentally happening. There's no coincidences with God. There's so many things that are happening that if he doesn't come, something significant has to happen. God won't let a significant day like that go away without something happening. Now, what's it going to be? I don't know. Rapture would be nice. Probably concurrent with something else major going on. You know, if you've got, somebody said they got 25 years worth of stores. I said you didn't have to build a bomb shelter, not this generation, but if you've got stores and we're running out of time, go buy a bunch of tracts and leave them all over the place, stick them there, and then tell your friends, your good friends that are not quite Christians, but maybe someone you've been working on. Tell them, if I disappear, these stores are for you to use in your family, in their friends. Just don't spread the word all over, because there will be people who will not hesitate to use force to take those stores. Just, you know, walk around looking decrepit. Don't wash your clothes all the time, or if you do, don't iron them. Look like you're starving. These are for the people that are left behind. And then, while you're doing that, be sure to read your Bible, but do that also behind closed doors. If you want to talk to somebody, talk to them in generalities first until you find out which side they're on. Because remember, all the good people are gone. There's you and whatever other friends you might be able to convince to join the group. But a lot of bad people are going to be down here, and Satan and all of his angels are going to be down here. So you got to be careful. Now, you may be challenged and you may be asked to testify. Don't be Peter. I don't know if you hear the crowing of a rooster 3 times or not, but you probably won't like the outcome. You'd be better off to tell them the truth and, frankly, be martyred, because then you'll be out. Whatever's coming, you don't want to be here for. You know, we have the revelation that tells us what's coming in generalities. But it doesn't say, if you live on this street at this time, a nuclear bomb is going to go off right over your head, or an asteroid is going to hit in your front yard. We don't have details like that. We're just told it's going to be bad. And we can use that to our favor by warning people, because if they start thinking about it and they look around, there are postings now that Putin said he's ready to start World War III if anybody wants to do it. He's not planning on using his current military, I don't think. Or if it's the ones that are down in Ukraine, they don't appear to be his best. Maybe he didn't want to waste his best. He had to protect the home country first. I don't know. But it only leaves him nukes. That's really not much of an option. But if you don't have anything better, and you're not worried about people dying, a nuke is fine. In the past, we could have won so many wars, but we worried about people dying, unrelated casualties that just happen to be people that live there. If we're fighting a government, we're not fighting the people. And even now, and same with all the good countries in the world, Israel's attacking weapons in Syria, but they're trying not to hit anybody. They don't really want to kill anybody. They're trying to keep their casualties to a minimum. I think the last attack in Syria, they killed 5 or 6. You know, they could have killed hundreds. Drop a bomb in a populated area. Look at the damage that happened in Lebanon, you know. And that was just storage that went up. We can do the same thing, and we've stayed out of things. Our whole Vietnam War was I don't want to say a joke, because it was serious when we went in there, but China was the one we were fighting. We weren't fighting the Vietnamese. China was doing the same thing that Iran's doing right now, providing arms to a proxy. And we destroyed their country, killed too many. And then at the end, we turned tail and ran, because we weren't going to go after China. We should have, but we didn't. I've got an ant crawling on my screen. it goes dark for a second, it might be him crossing the camera. Part of being outdoors, it is so quiet. There's a campsite not too far from here that is cheap, has all the things you want at a campsite, but it's a half a mile from the freeway, and you can hear it 24/7. I have earplugs for human noise, and come fall when the bugs are out, the katydids and all the other noisemakers, I still wear my earplugs because they make so much. And they get them, hundreds of them going. It's just bzzz. I can't sleep with that much noise. I need quiet. I need quiet to talk to God, and so do you. So make sure you find someplace. Get into a room in your house or apartment. If you're living with people, the bathroom would work. Just don't be in there too long. Taking a shower, you can talk to God. Doesn't matter where you're at. Talk to him. If you got any free moments, talk to him. He's got more to talk to you about than you do with him, but eventually stop long enough to listen. Maybe you might hear that still small voice. It's worked before. So things are going to pop this month somewhere. Something is going to happen. There's too many things. Oh, we got the red moon again over the 14th and 15th, or 15th and 16th, somewhere in there. I'm not exactly sure what day and how you're going to do this, because May 14th should be the anniversary of the creation of Israel. 15th is Passover, running overnight, so there's a lot of stuff. The second Passover. And the second Passover was created by King Hezekiah, because there were reasons where you couldn't go in the temple to offer your sacrifice. This was a festive occasion, one of the two main holidays. And for those that couldn't celebrate it, they felt like they were shorting God in the requirements that they had, and they were worried about not doing what he wants. But also, it was a time for celebration. And if you came in contact with a dead body, for whatever reason, you found somebody, you got in a fight with somebody, someone in the family died, whatever it was, you weren't allowed to go in the temple. So they created a second one. And also, too, if you were simply traveling, it wasn't like getting on an airplane and doing a red eye to get back home. If you were 50 to 100 miles away, you're not going to get there overnight. Not even with, well, you might with a fast chariot, but the average person didn't have one. And the Roman roads were pretty good. I mean, that was one of the good things that they did for the area, is all their roads and their highway markers so you knew where you were at. They focused on the earth. All their gods were earthly gods. Whether they borrowed them from Greece or whether they have their own, they're earthly gods. They thought Jesus was just a good guy. Of course, why would you kill a good guy? Because it was meant to be, and God would have found the right people if they didn't already have them picked. This is all planned out. That's why you don't need to worry about it. It's all planned out. So I'm going to try to make one more video. I've had some requests to talk about myself again, and I don't like doing that. I've had a very blessed life, and sometimes it may sound like I'm bragging, and I'm just very blessed. I didn't grow up in a rich family, so that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm blessed in the fact that I was presented God early. I didn't accept Christ right away, but I knew about him, and I had so many things just fall into place for me. That's when you know you're doing the right thing with God, is when things fall into place. For me, that's the way it works. I don't visualize. I don't dream. So he's not going to be able to give me dreams. I mean, I do a little bit. Everybody dreams, but I'm not aware of them. I don't visualize. I can't read a book and enjoy it, because books are designed by artists to paint a picture in your mind. Well, I see words on a page. It's difficult for me in my acting work that I've got to be able to do that. The good news is for me on that front, the ant keeps going near the camera lens, on that front is that I can short-term memory just about anything. Give me a page of dialogue and give me about 15 minutes and I'll put me in front of the camera and I'm okay. Give me 3 weeks, I'll go through it, memorize it. Over the next 13 days, I'll forget it. And I'll do the same thing I do anyway, read it just before I go on camera. Now, the ability to drop into a character and just do some general acting is important. Those that have to method act, that have to feel the character, you can do that to some degree, but it depends on how much method acting. I don't drink, but I joke on set sometimes that I want to play a drunk, and don't forget I'm a method actor, which means you have to give me alcohol. But I don't drink, they know that, so it's a joke to them. He keeps going across that lens. He's still on the camera. There's no food there. I think when I get done with this video, I'm going to put a picture of a pizza up on the screen and see how he likes it. It's just a small black ant. There's ones that are in every yard. Okay. I'm being sidetracked by an ant. Okay, so this month, well, in a day, see, this is coming out tomorrow. That's the 30th. Yeah, so Sunday will be the 1st. Because I got to calculate. My birthday's on the 6th. I saw somebody else's son's on the birthday, so good for him. We'll celebrate together. Yeah, so this will come out before the end of the month. So next month in May, we've got a lot of things happening. And there's things going on around the world that we're not even hearing about. The sun is going through some major sunspots. Now, have they been there all along and we missed them? I don't know. I mean, we now have a satellite orbiting the sun. And don't worry, it's not going to burn up. It only orbits at night. But it's close enough that it can get really good detailed pictures of what's going on. And there's a lot more activity on the sun than they realized. So it could knock out all of our satellites, except for one I worked on. I worked on a military satellite called, my mind went blank. See, I don't like talking about myself, and it just comes up like that. Milstar is the name of the satellite. You can Google it. It joins all the military forces together. And it was designed to be radiation hardened so that it could take a hit and keep working. Now, you could launch a missile at it and blow it up. I mean, you could do that with anything. But the sun won't knock it offline. Elon Musk just lost, a month or so ago, 40 satellites of his orbiting group of satellites because it had a solar flare that came out. Solar flares shoot high energy particles out. Those big looping flames that come out and go back in, some of them break and they go off into space. Well, wherever, it's a round ball, so whichever direction it's pointing in, that's the direction that those high energy particles go. And we got stuff coming in from, other parts of the universe. We're pretty well protected in that we're surrounded by other planets that seem to pull most of it that way. And our radiation belt helps, and our atmosphere. Water is a good blocker for radioactive particles. But in any case, all kinds of things going on. We've got earthquakes happening in Antarctica, supposedly quiet volcanoes are starting to tremble a little bit. Nothing major, we'd all hear about it in the news. But this is going on in the background, and you're not hearing about it because they don't want to distract you from what they're doing. Okay. Keep a watch on, I guess, probably starting on the 14th, 15th, and since we're told it's going to be at night, I think I'm going to sleep during the day, and then I'll stay up at night. So definitely going to do that, probably 13th, 14th, and 15th, and we'll just see what happens. I've had other people tell me that, the 22nd and 3rd would be a good time. May seems to be a hot month for something happening. Could be the rapture, and something big, or it could just be something big. We're that close. And they're saying, well, if it doesn't happen this year, we're outside the fig tree generation. Not so fast. One, we don't know 100% how to interpret Revelation. Jesus says if he doesn't, or through John doesn't shorten the days, man wouldn't survive. Does that mean that he's changed it? What about the changing of the time, where we go from 365 back to 360? That would make the days shorter. There's all kinds of things that can happen. If God can make a solar dial go backwards, he can also make it go forward. We can't really say for sure. If it's the fig tree generation, he might cram everything into the last hour of the 7th year. We don't know what God's going to do. We're just told to be ready and watch, and to give an account for why we're so happy. I'm happy because God is in my life, and whether he's in heaven and I'm here, or I'm with him, we're still together. He still takes care of me. I do pray for those, and I encourage you again to pray for those that are sick with any ailment. It's always been my belief in my talk with God on a daily basis that Christians through these last days before the rapture shouldn't have to suffer. Those that aren't Christian, do what you need to do to get their attention. But Christians shouldn't suffer through this. Start prepping us for what it's going to be like in heaven. I'm ready to turn this almost 70-year-old body. I'll be 68 on the 6th. And I'm not going out with a completely whole body. I've had enough parts taken out of me to keep me alive. I'm a cancer survivor, thank God. I have a plate in my neck because I was injured in a car accident. I have an artificial knee, need a second one, and I'm going to hold off and see if I get a whole new body first before I go through that. I'm enjoying life. Now I have to give up some things. I love to play tennis. I really can't with my knees. I guess I could play old man tennis, but I used to joke about it so much when I had to play old men years ago that I find it odd that if I do that now, people are going to be laughing at me. But they were old because they played tennis all their life. It's a quick story. I'll end it with this. We were at a clay court. Clay courts are slower anyway, so you don't have to worry about having a really hard hit and getting to it. It's going to bounce, and you've got time to take a few steps to get to it. We're on a hard court. You got to be, split second, moving in the right direction. And if you guess wrong, sometimes you got to lead before the ball is hit. If you guess wrong, they put it behind you. It's just a gamble you have to take. But on a clay court, it's slower. So my partner and I, we're playing doubles, and there's two old guys come out. One looked like he was in his 70s. The other looked like he was in his 90s. I mean, it was just almost used a racket as a cane walking up there. We were good players. We were intermediate players. We didn't worry about this one at all. They clobbered us. If we put the ball within 2 steps of them, they hit a winner every time. We couldn't do it, and then we get frustrated, and when you get frustrated, you play bad because you don't think. You're micromanaging everything, and you can't do that in tennis. you've got to instinctively play. And the one old guy, I mean, I have a very, very hard serve. Get out of here. Bugs bother me. I have a really hard serve. I was afraid to hit my hard serve that I would hit him and kill him. So I had to change my serve up. And if you put a topspin serve in, it's gonna hit and bounce up. You try to get it away from him, but you know, if it was a perfect game, it wouldn't be a game. So anyhow, these old guys won, and they didn't have to go very far. So I might try that. It's something that I want to play my old game, and I can't. So you give up things. You have your memories. You know, if we don't get into the Alzheimer bit, we have our memories. And one thing about it, because I had to deal with my mother who had it big time, she virtually at the end had no short-term memory. I had to take her phone away from her. I'd go visit her and get home, and she'd call me up half sobbing and crying, saying, "How come you never come and visit me?" I was just there, but she didn't remember. I started taking pictures every time I came, and sometimes I'd find a calendar just to hold it up so she could see. But then I'd show it to her, and then 10 minutes later, "How come you don't come and visit me enough?" And I saw her every other day. Here last year, I basically moved where she was so that I could be with her as much as I could. It's a terrible thing to lose your mind, but she always maintained her long-term memory, which meant that I could take out a box of pictures of me as a kid and us as a family growing up. She'd remember everybody. She could tell you everybody's name. But you show her a picture of the nurse that's taking care of her every day for the last year, she couldn't remember her name. And a lot of times she couldn't remember where she was. I found one, I had her in assisted living because she had the funds to pay for that. Her CPA husband put money away really good. And they also lucked out and got into a complex out in Santa Monica, California that was under rent control, and they couldn't raise the rent. So for 30 years they lived in this building on the beach in Santa Monica. If you go there, there's two tall white buildings right next to each other. I think they're on Ocean. It's been so long since I've been out there now, but in any case, she was well off, and it's good because she needed every penny of it. The time that she was running out, the month that she was running out of her money to afford the assisted living, and I was going to have to move her into a nursing home, she died that month. God was gracious, very gracious, because the assisted living is, it's got old people in there, but it's nice. It's like a retirement community. Nursing homes, sick people in beds that can't get out, smell of urine everywhere, very bad. I was not looking forward to it. I went through that with my father-in-law, and it was difficult. And he never made it out because it was hard on him too, because he still had his mind. But my mother never had to deal with that. And we transported her back out to California, and that's where she's at, along with my stepfather. She was with my stepfather longer than with my father. Sometimes you think you know what you're doing, and other times you realize, I should have waited on God. Always wait on God. Okay, I hear somebody running a lawn trim or something. They're going to head this way. They always do about this time, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Have your stores ready in case we're wrong, because we still got to prep, and we're going to get hit with some major inflation and a bunch of stuff coming up. But that's the Antichrist, and we shouldn't be here, but we could be wrong. A lot of people would be wrong. But as an ex-scoutmaster, Boy Scout, I don't know, can I do that? As an ex-Boy Scout, our motto is be prepared. And since we don't have a red phone here where we can pick it up and talk to God and hear an audible voice. We've got to really be in good shape and prep ourselves for that with God. We don't have that. We're guessing. We're guessing on a rapture. We're guessing on the steps. We assume that a lot of them are linear, but maybe they're not. I've got teachers that teach it both ways. I'm not going to pick a choice. It doesn't matter. We're not going to be here. But if we're wrong, and it's not this year, we're going to have to rethink a lot of what we've been teaching. The fig tree generation is pretty solid. But the tribulation time frame, nowhere in the Bible does it say it's 7 years. So the conclusion that it's a 7-year tribulation could be wrong. In our life, we will have tribulation. So there's tribulation all the time. The wrath of God tribulation isn't until the second half. Be watching with me, as I said in my last video. Help me to watch. If you see something, drop me a note. If you see news articles or things that are talking about things that might be biblical, help me out. As I had to apologize in my last video, if I watch too much news to make sure I've got information to talk about, it irritates me. I don't realize it at the time, but I can tell when I start regurgitating the garbage that our media is throwing out. Okay. Be kind. We've got the weekend coming up. I'm working tomorrow, so this will be released tomorrow while I'm working. Try to have a second video made today because I won't have time tomorrow. It'll be at least a 12-hour day. But I'll try to release another video where I'm going to talk about my testimony a little bit. I've tried to do it in the past, and I really don't. I feel uncomfortable doing it. So I'm going to have to try to force myself. But just like I mentioned today, things happen in my life that are obvious blessings of God, things that I have no control over. Me moving to Georgia, yeah, we threw a dart in a map and came here, but could have been any place. But God knew where I was going to hit with that dart, and He started setting things up. God will look after you. Just stay as close to Him as much as you can. Read the Bible daily. Pray daily. It says to pray nonstop, but as a minimum, pray daily. Don't forget God, no matter how distracted things can get. And things can get distracting. Squirrel. Actually, I don't see any squirrels, which is unusual. Nope, I don't see one anyplace. I still have my birds though. They're still chirping, but they're getting quieter and quieter as we get further into spring. They're going to be busy. They're going to be too busy to chirp, and they won't need to chirp because they chirp to attract a mate. If they're still chirping at this point in time, I feel sorry for them. All right, we're going to be meeting in the clouds very soon if all the signs are pointing in the right direction. If we get through May and we're not there, as Barry Oss says, I mean, he's got a date for pretty much every month that he could go through, but May seems to have the most pointing to one part of time, the middle of the month. I might even try, I'm going to go get my, I know I'm still talking, I'm going to go get my Reboost, which is a cell phone extender. It amplifies a cell signal and rebroadcasts it locally that you can pick up on. Because the cell signal here is not very good. I want to do a live video. I haven't been able to do that because I get connected and then it drops off after 30 seconds or a minute. Or I get to where I'm telling a story and it cuts off right in the middle. So I've had a few of those and I just delete them because they're not worth keeping. But I'm going to go get that today. Tomorrow I'm filming. I have to go pick up some of my props it's in storage, so I got to have those. I'll load them up. I got to be on site at 9 a.m. and it's an hour and a half away. So, but there'll be food waiting for me, coffee. We get lunch, dinner if it goes that long. So it's fun. We get to dress up and play as little kids. As long as I'm doing this, God's given me time to do that too. It's good for him to be king. I'm modifying the Mel Brooks line, it's good to be king. I'm saying it's good for him to be king. Oh, and Hezekiah, in coming up with the second Passover, I almost forgot to put this in. Hezekiah basically means God gives strength. So in these times where we're going to have the second Passover, celebrating something that was created by a king who was given strength, the only really good king in that time frame, I pray that he will give you strength to deal with whatever you're dealing with. Call on that strength of God. Call on that first before you ask for healing. You can also ask for healing, but strength first. Because the strength, if he heals you of this, Satan may find something else. So if you have the strength, he won't bother anymore. Okay, I'm out of here. Have a good weekend. Blessings all.